Hi, everybody in middle school, 5th to 8th graders. Um, we are going to go through a little tutorial today, and like the other pre-recorded tutorials that I've done, you can have it side by splitting your screen, which I showed everybody how to do last week and had video links up to show you how to do that. You can stop and start or pause anytime you want and come back, rewatch any parts of the video. But what we're going to do today is something that some of you may know how to do in some ways. Some of you may not. Some of you may know different aspects of this. But for next week, and what we do as a project next week, I want everybody to have a really, really good idea or good knowledge of how to work with images in Google Docs. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So I have this document opened and it says practice with photos. That's the same document linked in the assignment that you guys are going to do and then turn in. And what I want to do in this document is I want to add two pictures, and we're going to look at two different techniques to do that. First, we're going to search from right within Google Docs. And there's a button here on the toolbar to go ahead and do that, to insert an image. There's also, if you go up to insert and then image, the same set of choices. Now, there's several choices there, and in the future there may be reasons to use some of the others, but for today we're going to do the one that says search the web. And that's going to come up with a bar on the side where we can search from images. Now, it is a little bit of a limited set of images because it selects only sources where they're copyright free, very reliable sources to get those images. It's not the same as just searching in Google, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a second, but we're going to try to find an image of a dog. And we're just going to type in dog. You can be a little bit more specific if you want, and type in German Shepherd, type in Retriever, type in Poodle, whatever you'd like. But I like this picture of a dog right here. I'm going to click it and then insert it into my Google Doc. Now, just to give you a little comparison, if you tried to be really specific here with something where regular Google and a Google image search may find it, let's say I said dog eating an orange. It's most likely not going to find exactly what I wanted. Here's a dog with a pumpkin. That's kind of close. Pumpkins are orange. There's more pumpkins. But I don't see specifically a dog eating an orange, and it's very unlikely that I would. Because this is from, like I said, a limited set of sources. If I went to just regular old Google and I typed in dog eating an orange, then in the Google image search it may find that, and it does. Very first result. A couple other results where we see a dog eating an orange, because it's searching from really anywhere on the internet that may be a copyrighted image, may be an unreliable source. You never know. This is a good way, though, to get an image that you know is going to be good and safe to use. Now, once I have that image, I don't need that sidebar anymore, and if I select it, there's a couple things that I can do. First, I can resize that image really easily. So I can go ahead and I can adjust that image's size. And I can go ahead and always use the corner handles. There's some programs where it doesn't matter, some programs where it does, but by using the corner handles, you make sure you keep the same aspect ratio so it doesn't look too shrunk or too stretched out in any way. That's the first thing. Now next we have these text wrapping options down here. If we were working in a document where you wrote a paragraph, you were making a list, you wrote a report, we might need to use those to work with your image the best. In this example, though, we're really not going to be, because we don't have any other text, but those are things that you could possibly use in the future. What we are going to use is first a crop tool. See this universal symbol for crop right here? This is a really powerful tool where you can cut out a section of the image, or if you imagine that that image was on paper, it's like taking a pair of scissors and cutting just what you want out of the image. So let's say I just really wanted to focus on this dog's head and not so much everything on the sides and the background, or let's say there was a second dog here and I didn't really want that second dog, I didn't like it as much. I could use this crop tool and I could just drag in from the sides and just focus on the section of the image that I want, which is right there with the dog's face. So once you're happy with it, you see the main section that's in full color, the rest of it which is a little faded out or transparent. And once you're happy with your result and you've cropped it as much as you want, you can click off of the image and go ahead and have that cropped image be what you want. We're also going to continue clicking back on the image with a few other image options. We're going to click on this image options button right here, and we see several things on the side that we'll go through. First, the size and the rotation. It gives you the option to specify a very specific number for the size of the picture. Now, in our case, we're not going to use that. There's really not much of a reason, but you could have reasons sometimes. When I put things on the school's website, sometimes they need to be more of an exact size, and so I might want to use that. If you were making an image and you were putting it in, say, a locket, like a necklace with that little locket that you could put a picture in, you might need a really specific size. Or if you were making a card that needed to go in an envelope, you might need, again, something that you typed in here that's an exact size that you want it. We don't really need to use that for today. The angle, if you ever have an image, and this happens to people all the time where they take an image, or take a picture rather, and it's tilted to the right or tilted to the left, upside down, you can use the 90-degree tool to twist that image or rotate that image to where you want, or you could use this angle number over here to just give it a slight turn if you wanted to make it maybe a more interesting image, having a more interesting look on the page if that's something you liked. Text wrapping, we already talked about. That's the same tools as you see down here. Recolor here in the menu allows us to put on a filter that's going to change that image's color. And for this image right here, I'm going to give it a slightly different color. Let's see, I like this one. That's a little bit of an orange warm tone. You shouldn't overuse this because it can start to make things look silly, but there may be reasons sometimes where you want to recolor that image to fit with a theme of your document or other colors on your page. And last but not least, under adjustments. With brightness and contrast, we really don't need to adjust those very often. There are times where once in a while an image may be taken that may need to be lightened or the contrast changed, but most modern photos and most modern cameras do a pretty good job of this to the point where you shouldn't need too much for images that you find and want to put into your Google Doc. The transparency, you may want to adjust for certain reasons. If you want, right now there's no transparency, so that image can't be seen through at all, but maybe you want something in front or behind to be able to be seen a little bit, so you want to make it slightly more transparent, or you want to make something called a watermark, where it's a very faint part of that picture that's like behind text, so you want it to be a watermark and fade it out so that it's almost all the way transparent, you only see it a little bit. That's something else you can adjust. Now, that's all that I'm going to adjust for this dog picture, and I like it, I'm happy with it, I'm going to leave it how it is. Now, I'm going to enter down 2 times and get ready to put in another picture. But the other picture that we put in, we're going to do in a different way. We're going to say that we can't find the picture that we like, or it's not in that search tool within the Google Docs, so we're going to look for an outside source. Now, I'm going to make a disclaimer. Google Images is something that's very familiar to people, and everything that I talk about right now can be done within Google Images. However, since we're a school, I always go to another website that's powered by Google called KidSearch because it's filtered to be safe for kids. Now, that's what I'm going to advise you to use. Everybody's household is different, and in some households, using Google Images may be okay. Using Google Images may be something that parents allow and don't mind. In some houses, they may not, but I'm going to show everybody how to do it in a website called KidSearch, which is also linked to this assignment. It's kids with a Z. Search, and it's powered by Google, so it has a lot of the same tools, same features, and works in very similar ways. I could go to an images section right here at the top, or I'm just going to type in right now my search, which is just going to be for a cat. And it's searching. Now it starts off with the web, which means I get tons of results that could be websites, could be images, could be videos, could be a cat game, could be cat trivia. But what I specifically want is images, so I'm going to click on this images button right here. And now this is giving me a Google-powered search for images of cats. And I'm not going to take too long to pick, but I'm going to select one, and I like this guy right here. He looks like my type of cat. So I want this picture now in my Google Doc. How do I do that? Well, there's two techniques, and I'm on a Windows computer right now, a desktop with a mouse, and it has the right and the left button, but I'm going to pretend for a second that I'm working on a Chromebook and do it in the way that I could do it on a Chromebook. So here's the first way. What I could do is I could just put my mouse on the picture. I could use the trackpad or the trackpad and the button that's in it to go ahead and click and hold down. Don't let go. Drag up to the tab with my Google Doc, and you'll notice that a little icon appears below my mouse pointer. That's a little rectangle with a plus sign below it. Drag down to where I had my cursor, where I want that image, and let go, and you'll see that that took that image and put it right into my Google Doc. And that does work well a majority of the time. Once in a while, there's maybe a little issue with it, but that usually works very well. I'm going to delete it for a second because I'm also going to show you another way with the same image. Let's say that method wasn't working very well, and so I wanted to do a copy and paste. Well, with your trackpad, you notice that you don't have two buttons, so you don't have that right click, which we may have used in class or you may have used another time to do your copy and paste. So what you would need to do is hold down the Alt button on the keyboard. That's ALT, the Alt button. So if you hold down that Alt button with one finger and then with your mouse on the picture of the cat, you give it a click, you'll notice that you do get a menu pop up and there should be an option to copy the image. So go ahead and click on that. Go back to your Google Doc, and you could do a Control V right now, which would be the shortcut for paste, or go to Edit, Paste. And that cat picture comes in your Google Doc. Now, we're going to resize it a bit just to make it a little easier to see everything and work with it. And I want to show you just one more set of tools for now to use with this image, and that would give it a border. Now, those tools are right here, starting with this pencil for border color, border weight, and border dash. I see them. They're visible, but let's for a second say that they weren't. Let's say that my window was too narrow. My window was too narrow, or I'm on a smaller screen and those tools aren't visible in the toolbar, but you see that these three dots are there. That's called an ellipse, and it brings up any tools that were cut off from the toolbar because it was too narrow. So if you don't see those, make sure you're clicked on the image, but you may need to click on these three dots for more tools. In any case, we're going to give this cat picture a simple border. So first I'm going to pick my color, and I'm going to give this guy a reddish border. Then I'm going to pick my weight. That's kind of the line thickness for a font or for a line. And I'm going to give it a weight of 3. And then I'm going to select whether I want it to be dashed, dotted, or a solid line, and whichever one of these you choose is fine. You can go back and forth, see which one you like the best, and when you're happy with it, click off of the picture, and you should have the results be two pictures that you found in two different ways and did some slight changes to add to your Google Doc. All right, make sure with this assignment that you submit it and turn it in. That was something that I made a big point about last week when you have assignments in Google Classroom, to make sure that you are submitting them when they're finished. So make sure you submit this, and I hope you were successful, because next week we're going to actually do a project which we're going to make kind of a complete multi-faceted project in Google Docs that's going to have a couple of different things, and you really need to know how to insert these images in. If you had any problems or ran into any issues, you can let me know in the comments or send me a message and let me know, and we'll get that sorted out, and hopefully it went well.